Welcome to the round 2 recap of the FIDE Candidates 2024. The first game to end was Vidit versus Hikaru. And while we were watching this game, keep in mind that Hikaru hasn't lost a classical game of chess since 2022. The last time he lost a classical game of chess was against Ding Liren in the FIDE Candidates, which allowed Ding to move on to the World Championship match and then beat Nepo. So this is an absolutely brilliant game by Vidit. We should look at it from the black perspective. You'll see why at the end of the game. You've probably already taken the hints. But yes, we get a Spanish and then we get a Berlin. You might say the Berlin is a solved draw. It's boring. Promise you it's not. Vidit came prepared. He came with surprises. So we get pawn to c6. This is a very rare move. It's only been played a few times. And it definitely caught Nakamura by surprise. This is the first time I've ever seen him in time pressure, and he got absolutely dismantled. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat that. He got dismantled this game. What he should have done, Nakamura that is take the bishop, allowing black to recapture, and then at least you get a pawn on d6. Black will win the pawn back, but it's a game. At knight g6, it's complicated, but it's a game. In hindsight, they say hindsight is 2020. Nakamura would have definitely went for that. But he played a good move, bishop to d3, the alternative. We get a bishop retreat, and now Nakamura spent a lot of time. He spent, quick math, 22 minutes. He's like, that's a free pawn. And then he's like, I'm not buying it. That is a free pawn. Show me what you got. Now Vidit unleashes his prep and a brilliance, one in the same. Can you guys spot the move Vidit played here that completely dismantled Nakamura's position? The move is bishop takes h3. Now, this move is aimed at opening up white's king. The bishop could be taken, but then we get this fascinating idea that I'm used to in the Sicilian at least, of queen to b8. The f-pawn cannot move due to the bishop on b6. White would break or create a discovered attack, but really just guard the knight, and then black would pick up the piece, and white would have an open king. Nakamura didn't want any of that, so he did not take the bishop. He's like, at least my opponent will be out of prep now. But Vidit went on to play nearly a perfect game. So what should you do here? The knight is attacking the bishop, but the bishop is pinning the f-pawn to the king. So get your other bishop to safety while gaining a tempo on the queen. There is no f3. We now get queen to c2 and bishop to c7. You don't want to lose this bishop. The bishop is aiming in at white's weak king. These bishops are monsters. And take a second and look at these queenside pieces Nakamura has. They have not moved yet. I'm sure we all know what happens when we lack in development when we play chess. Bad things happen. So Naka plays e5, shutting down the diagonal of the dark squared bishop and opening up a battery onto h7 while also removing a defender on h7. So this was amazing calculation by Vidit because he sees that there is nothing there. He loses the h-pawn, but at the end of the day, b5 is going to kick out the knight on c4. And after this e-pawn is picked up, you again have the open route, open lane to white's king. He takes with the knight, of course, because he wants to defend his bishop if Naka takes. We get bishop to e2. Not a great move, but an understandable one. You want to consolidate, you want to trade pieces. And here there are multiple good moves for black, but he plays the best one. f5 is actually a great move. The easy one to see is queen to d6. Point being, if bishop takes, there is checkmate. The checkmate is not knight takes bishop, because then after knight takes, they guard h2. The checkmate is one of those chess.com puzzles where you give an in-between check. No matter what they take with, there's checkmate. Of course, Nakamura wouldn't have fell for that. After queen d6, there's g3, and the game goes on for just a little bit longer because black would have still won. But we get f5, and I think the brilliance of this move is determined in the fact that if white goes rook to d1, black can go queen e8 and enter on the light squares on the king side. So it opens up a lane for the queen to h5, kind of like in the Dutch or kind of like in the Grand Prix, as you've seen when we shift the queen over to the dark squares. f5, white plays f4, shutting down the bishop. But why is f4 such a weakening move? If you notice, it opens this diagonal. What piece do you think of when you think diagonal? Dark squared bishops? Depends on the color of the diagonal, but facts. King f2, trying to guard the knight, trying to make a run for it towards the center of the board. But He's in a pin dilemma. He has a singular check, may as well. But then queen g5, just building pressure on the pinned piece. I've never seen this happen to Nakamura in a classical game. Vidit must be hype. He has 1.5 out of 2 playing as black. That's a good start if I've ever seen something like it. So bishop takes. So we get a consolidation and queen e2. There's many ways to win here. The game would have dragged out had he gone for this approach, trapping the rook. Yes, you're up in exchange, but it's not so resignable, right? Things can get tricky. White can pick up a pawn or something, and then things are tricky. So we get queen to g3, and here king to e2. I hope my audio isn't messing up. It looks like oddly loud. I hope it's not. Sorry. Usually my audio is quiet. Rook a to d8. This is my second time recording too. My microphone was unplugged the first time, so my apologies. Rook to d8, making the king move. Now queen to g5, getting in the diagonal of the king, right? Discovered attacks typically work well in chess. We get pawn to b3, and now using the discovery. He just simplifies into a position. Nakamura actually resigns due to king b2, knight g3. You're picking up the exchange, but not only are you picking up the exchange, white still hasn't developed. His king is very weak. This is GG's. For example, it could go queen e1, knight takes, and you could even just try to enter. And white lacks development. So Nakamura fairly resigned. Props to Vidit. Seems like the young generation is off to a fast start in the candidates. Hope you enjoyed. Stick around for the next recap. Thank you for watching.